We love these big Sunday outings with the residents. All of our residents are in great need of protection. We are the only family they have. A large family of 60 children now. Today we are fishing for crabs in the paddy fields. The children left in their Sunday best, but they forgot about their beautiful clothes and dived into every pond they could find, recapturing the lost paradise of their infancy, wiping out, in a way, the abuse, the waste, the stolen childhood.
La décharge, l'enfance volée.
Christian and Marie-France de Pallières are French. Following a very active life full of adventure, including 2 world tours with their children, they retired to Cambodia, where they founded an association called PSE, for a child's smile.
In prayer I said, Lord, you have allowed me to live a wonderful life, to go around the world twice with my children, and so I am available. I have just taken early retirement. I am available to do things that are really worthwhile. At that moment, I felt very strongly that it was done. Rarely have I had this kind of inner certainty. And 5 minutes later, I was offered the management of an NGO. That is not this one, but the CIPAR in Phnom Penh. And 3 months later, I was in Cambodia, and Marie-France joined me later.
I was working for the Paris diocese at the time, and I couldn't leave just straight away like that. I came over 1 year later.
The work that I did for the association was a preparation for setting up the training center. It had the responsibility for reforming primary education in the 4 provinces around Phnom Penh. Marie-France and I have lived in Cambodia for nearly 10 years now. We were immediately deeply touched by this country. At the end of so many years of war, you cannot imagine the state it was in. Of course, life has returned to normal in Phnom Penh, but the wounds are deep, and the worst of these remain hidden. They are the wounds of a society that has lost its values and its bearings. The war has left its enormously violent mark everywhere, and it is even as if Buddhist values have disappeared. The main victims of this violence are the children. We are now entering a part of the Stung Mean Chey district, the area of the dumping ground. Here is where we put our center.
This Centre for Special Schooling is an adventure for Marie-France and Christian that began in 1995. Young scavengers rummaging around in the rubbish in the streets of Phnom Penh show them another work site.
It was completely crazy. There were children coming from the town. I asked them where they worked, and they brought me here. And this discovery was a real shock. Anger, and then shock. I could not stop myself from weeping because I had never seen this. Do you see? We had been to shanty towns in India, etc. But you have to imagine what the dump was like in 1995. It did not look like this. The Japanese have only recently built the roads, cleaned up and drained the land. It was a revolting mush. And it was not just an ordinary dump. There is no heavy salvaging equipment. It was a mush that heated up because the rubbish was not collected on a regular basis in Phnom Penh, and so it rotted. Everything that arrived was full of worms. It was disgusting. And the children ate in it. Once you've seen this, you cannot go home and just switch off. Something had to be done straight away. It was unacceptable to see children eat in such circumstances. It was a daily survival. That is, you have nothing left over for the next day. We regularly hear of children who have been crushed by a truck or a bulldozer because they want to be the first to get a piece of cardboard or plastic, and they get too close. Sekontio would not be alive today if she had not been taken from her abusive father, who exploited her so much that one day I saw Sekontia on the point of exhaustion, falling into the disgusting swamp where she could have drowned. Sekontia is now at the center. She is happy. It's too much for a child. He works all day and then afterwards he doesn't dare to go home because he will be beaten or mistreated or sent away if he hasn't collected as much as 1,500 or 1,000 reals. He won't be given anything to eat. He'll have to work all night long. It's terrible. It's a constant struggle. What is your dream? What would you like to do later?
I'd like to learn, to study.
And what would you like to do? Where would you like to sleep?
I'd like to sleep where there are beds, because there are mosquitoes here and it's cold at night. My mother works all day and I work at night, and my brother has gone to collect rubbish in Phnom Penh.
Until what time do you work here?
I work until about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I sleep till 5. At 5 o'clock I get up and work again until 11 o'clock.
Oh dear, that sounds tiring. One thing is certain. We can't leave these children in these conditions. It's inhuman.
The children tell us working on the rubbish tip isn't too bad, it's normal. But on the other hand, having a mother and father who beat them, that makes them cry. The parents who abandon them, that makes them cry. For them, working on the tip is normal.
Today we're going to Dinah's house. She was forced by her father to beg in the streets of Phnom Penh. Her father starved her so that people would feel sorry for her. Today we are going to visit her mother, who is at the end of her tether with being beaten by her husband, with his drinking away all the money she tries to earn on the tip, and with not being able to feed her children. She would like to leave behind everything here and go back to where she lived as a child. Dinah's younger brother has been disabled since birth. He has no right arm because of the toxic fumes from the tip which cause deformities in newborn babies. But it is impossible to escape breathing these fumes when you live on the tip. When we talk to the fathers, they were all young children under the Khmer Rouge. They lived for 8 or 9 years under the Khmer Rouge, and now they have families here. So what happened back then? There were camps for the children, and they were put in these camps. They were taught violence and brutality. They were taught to reject all the values of Cambodian society, and they became soldiers. Sometimes they were ordered to destroy their own families. If we had gone through that, it would be impossible to be normal again. Could we live a normal way at the moment? The men are crushed, and the children are now suffering the consequences of what happened under the Khmer Rouge. They have learnt nothing since then. They've lost all their moral standards, and so, it's a terrible thing to say, but the children are being martyred, sold, and abused. While Dina was speaking, she couldn't stop crying because what she was saying was so horrific. The blows she received from her father when he was half drunk, her suffering while begging in the streets of Phnom Penh, her hunger, her fear of the crowds, her younger brother that she was too tired to carry anymore, the impossibility of sleeping at night on the pavements of Phnom Penh with its rats and mosquitoes. And you, Davy, you've come to tell us about your parents who wanted to sell you into prostitution. Don't worry, Davy. We're going to protect you now. You know, one of the main Buddhist priests in charge here said, Cambodia has lost its backbone. It's lost everybody who knew something. During this war, it has also lost its soul. How can we rebuild here? 50% of the population is under 16, which is potentially wonderful. It's amazing. And on the other hand, we have a generation that is completely worn out and tired, that has not been brought up well, that has had no school, and it's a generation who are being looked after by others. This is impossible.
Faced with this terrible chaos, Christian and Marie-France decided to organize a basic program for the children to provide food and schooling. This is what the first frightened, skinny children that they found on the rubbish tip wanted. Most important, a meal every day. So, at dawn every morning, Christian and Marie-France started to make the journey to the rubbish tip, bringing a cooking pot of rice and fish, some bananas and some water. At first they went by bike, then they used an ancient van.
And then we quickly realized that this was not enough. We saw that we had to get them away from their present situation, and this naturally gave us the idea of providing schooling for these children.
Then, thanks to the mobilization of a lot of people, in particular an extraordinary network of supporters and sponsors in France, a centre was set up to allow the children to catch up on their education. At the end of May 1996, there were 12 children enrolled. 10 years later, getting on for 5,000 were enrolled for training in various programs.
Bonjour.
Naturally, we start with a good breakfast. Everyone washes his uniform every morning. When you are well fed, well cared for, you become the finest children in the world. Isn't that right, Srelak? You are not loved at all. Your parents wanted to kill you, and yet you're adorable. And you, Penli, you were abducted, and we can guess why. What a fight we had to rescue you. The adorable Vishna, God only knows what she's been through. And now, 30 minutes of exercise. That's a good start to the day. We live in this room, but we're always short of space. Our private part is where the mosquito net is, and the small corner where Marie-France has her things. The interesting thing is that we do not get out of the habit of living in a small space, so that when we arrive in our camper van for our 4 months tour, we are not put out in the least.
On n'est pas dépaysés.
The thing is, Christian and Marie-France set out on a 4-month tour each year to present their project at 50 to 60 meetings. It's a real marathon. Now we're spreading out into Europe. This year we went to Madrid, next year it's Brussels, then probably London. We explain the children's problems, and the people are invited to contribute or to come and join us to help.
Our centre is also a school for catching up on missed schooling. A lot of children are over 15, have never been to school, so they have to hurry. So we lay on 2-year schooling in 1 year, with a very dynamic teaching method for which we train our teachers. The children are amazing. After all they've been through, they appreciate the value of school and they really like it. So they do really well. This is a real joy for all of us.
C'est un vrai bonheur pour nous tous.
We realized that these kids really wanted to better themselves and also to help others. So we had to press on with their education. We were able to set up a full course from primary school all the way through to the baccalaureate. However, even a full education up to baccalaureate was not enough to secure jobs, so we had to find ways of providing professional training. And in that way we were really able to ensure that they would find decent work.
Comme ça, à partir de ce moment-là où nous avons vraiment pu les insérer dans la vie active.
So this was how, with the help of our well-organised sponsors, it became possible to open the hotel school. The students here learn exactly as they would in a restaurant. Let me introduce you to Till, who is Cambodian and is in the course of becoming head in this restaurant. As part of the training course, one of the students will work with him each week as student head of the restaurant. Now here we have this young lady who is in charge this week. She has the job of monitoring all the orders that are taken and all the dishes that are served.
The thing that is developing most quickly in Cambodia is tourism, and so we concentrated our training efforts towards this. We absolutely did not want to leave our job training program to chance. We wanted to be sure that there would be jobs at the end of the course.
When you see them here, you would have absolutely no impression that their everyday life is on the rubbish tip. It really is amazing. After 1 or 2 years of theoretical training and practical training, the students can find jobs or further professional training throughout Cambodia.
Until you've been here for a year, no one will really take care of you. You won't die of starvation, but you won't be looked after. Because in the very poor provinces, the authorities are afraid that people will just think that they can arrive at a rubbish tip and some organization will take care of them. It would be better if they developed agriculture over there, so that people wouldn't have to come here, because it really is not good for people to come and live in a place like this. And it's a terrible fact. But no one will help you until you have been here for a year. It's shocking, but because you can't just leave the children to starve, a bare minimum is provided.
The first rudimentary hut was built near the rubbish tip in 1997. Today, between 400 and 600 children receive a meal here every day. We have a nursery school. Between 70 and 80 children come here every day. They arrive at 6:30 a.m. and we give them a meal, then a shower. And we provide them with a complete normal nursery school program. The parents cannot manage without their children's earnings, so they are reluctant to let their children go to school. Christian and Marie-France have therefore set up a system of exchange. They give rice to the families to compensate them for the time the children are in school.
Cet après-midi, nous faisons la fête.
This afternoon, we're having a party. Here at the centre, we are always looking for an excuse to have a party.
Le théâtre est très important pour nous.
Play acting is very important for us. It is through this that we can express our sufferings and so cure ourselves of them and not keep reliving them. Thank you, Rata. You came to tell me that you would like to testify that you were sold into prostitution, and in spite of your suffering and your shame, you would like to talk about it so that it does not happen to other children. This is really splendid of you, Rata.
Bien sûr, les enfants, vous connaissez ces scènes.
Children, you know these scenes by heart because you have experienced them at home. You act them out to say that you cannot take any more of all this violence. But these scenes also bring back terrible memories to you. But the essential thing is to do everything possible so that they do not have to relive the same experiences. Yes, children, our best reward is the sight of the smiles that you have rediscovered. And we have lots of them in the center, and aren't they beautiful? This is the reward that we wanted to share with everyone who has helped to bring back these smiles. Isn't that so, Pali? Isn't that so, Bopa? Isn't that so, Kanya? Isn't that so, Surilak, Guti, and the rest of you?
Le mois dernier, dans le film Net for God,
In last month's Net for God film, Lights in the Night, we stress the importance of presenting information positively in the media, as done by Reporters of Hope, and of proposing solutions to all the problems that surround us. And this story, this testimony of Christian and Marie-France de Pallières, shows us that a small act, if it is inspired by the Holy Spirit, can take us a long way. It all started by taking meals by bike to these children on the tips, and now there are 5,000 children covered by the programme. And so, perhaps for us in the Net for God network, it is an invitation to be aware of the times when small initiatives could take us far, if they are inspired by the Holy Spirit. This month we are asking you to pray for all street children, especially those in Stung Mean Chey in Cambodia, but also all the others near to our Net for God groups, notably those in KINSHASA, Ivory Coast, and those in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo. The text of the month is in the book of Isaiah, chapter 58, verses 6 and 7. What kind of fasting does God require from us? Remove the chains of oppression and the yoke of injustice. Share your food with the hungry, and do not refuse to help your own relatives. Cambodia, we recommend that you watch the Net for God film made in October 2004 about Claire Lee. As a Buddhist who survived 4 years hell in the Khmer Rouge camps, she describes her encounter with the God of the Westerners. You may order the film called The Testimony of Claire Lee from the French studio AME. See telephone number and email addresses on the screen.